All right.
All right. Hey guys, welcome back to another Ask Me Anything episode. And today's special guest will be Miss Sullivan. Okay. So someone asked about why you chose they asked, why did you want to come to Mount Baker to teach?
Well, it started with wanting to leave California. I was teaching and living in the Bay Area in California, which is kind of like the northern part. And there's a lot of people and it's very expensive. And so over time, I became very clear that I wanted to leave California. And so I started traveling all around kind of the coast, up through the Oregon coast and the Washington coast, trying to figure out where on the West Coast I wanted to move. And I ended up in Bellingham on one trip and the surrounding area and up at Mount Baker in the mountains. And I just fell in love with the area and really wanted to live in the area. So I just decided to move. And when I moved up here, I started applying for jobs. And I was super fortunate that Mount Baker was hiring. And Miss Pitts and Miss Geldart interviewed me and Mr. Durand. And I just remember feeling so comfortable with them in the interview and really feeling like it was a school that I wanted to be a part of. And then I just kind of got really, really lucky. And then last year I was a leave replacement for Miss Gaspar. And I ended up getting the opportunity to come back, and I really wanted to, just the community and the kids, and I really enjoyed it. So I was really lucky and happy that I got to come back.
Oh yeah. And then so the next question will be based off of why you wanted to be a teacher. Someone was asking, how did you know that you wanted to be an English teacher?
Well, in high school, I had a teacher, an English teacher named Miss Tapia. And particularly my junior year of high school, I was going through a hard time at home with some of the stuff that was happening with family and things. And she really took an interest in me and helped me through a lot of that. But also part of the way she took an interest in me was teaching me how to be a good writer and teaching me how to express myself and also express just ideas through writing. And I remember my junior year just feeling like, wow, this is so powerful that I can take something that's in my head and transfer it to other people, and I can communicate in that way. And I just felt like I wanted to give that gift that she gave me to other people, is how I felt. So it's really because of Miss Tapia, my high school English teacher.
Oh, that is awesome. I've never been like one of those students who's been like really good in English, but like to hear that like your teacher inspired you, that's awesome.
Well, I feel like that's probably a lot of us, right? Like we have just some teachers connect with us for one reason or another, you know? And I don't even think I was a particularly Englishy student until high school. I actually really loved science, and I was definitely going to be going into science in my own brain. And then I just had an experience with someone who just totally changed my universe, which is kind of the way life works, you know?
Yeah. And I think you already answered this question, but someone was wondering if you weren't a teacher, what would you be?
Well, I guess in like fantasy world, I would love to like work like on a ranch in Montana and learn to move cattle and like basically be a cowgirl in my like fantasy land. That's what I would do. In the real world, I have a feeling that wouldn't really work out for me. So I don't know, in the real world, if I really wasn't going to teach, I don't know, I feel like I'd probably it would be probably something so similar, like doing something like with social work, maybe. I think that would be really rewarding and hard, but a really good thing for the community. I'd also love to, I mean, this is kind of teaching, but if I wasn't going to teach teenagers, teaching teachers is something I've done in the past and really enjoyed, like having student teachers. So maybe teaching people how to teach would be fun. So if I wasn't going to teach high school, maybe that. So those are the real world options. And then Fantasyland is like cowgirl, you know, or like
Yeah.
Shamu instructor at SeaWorld. That'd be cool.
Yeah, everyone has those.
Yeah, right. I could train an orca. Why not?
So for, let's see, with your experiences at Baker so far, what has been like one of your best experiences?
Let's think about that. There's been a lot of good ones. I don't know if this is a really individual experience, but it's just kind of indicative of the school as a whole. Because the school that I came from, that I taught at, was a very large public school in California. So there was almost 1,800 kids. And so because of that, just there's a ton of teachers, a ton of students. And so while there's like communities within the community there, not everybody knows each other quite the same that it happens at Baker. And so one of the coolest parts for me about moving here and teaching at Baker, which is so much smaller than my previous school, is how well people know each other and what a close-knit community it is, where you can say, oh, I have that student. And they're like, oh yeah, I know that person. And last year we did this together. And it's amazing how people are so tied together, which I think is a really, really beneficial thing for a school, because when someone's struggling, that means that there's already so many people that know that person that you can really surround them and support them, which is a harder task at a bigger school. So that's been one of the really cool things, is seeing how close knit of a community it's been. So that's a good one. Also, the day that I found fake dog poop on my ground in my classroom teaching juniors, that was also pretty hilarious. I enjoyed that. We then put it out in the hallway and tried to scare Miss Pitts and Miss Stevens. And then Miss Stevens was like using a piece of paper to try to pick up this fake plastic dog poop, which was hilarious. So that's a good memory as well.
I bet. That's the first time I've heard something like that happen.
Yeah, I just looked on the ground and I was like, oh my God, that's poop. And then I was like, oh no, that's got to be plastic. And it definitely was. So then I picked it up and put it in the hallway. Yeah.
That's funny.
It was good. Good time.
So let's see. What has been the hardest time, or the hardest thing that, what I'm trying to say, hardest thing for you throughout this quarantine and remote learning situation? What has been difficult?
You know, I think in general, I think a lot about, I don't know if you guys remember Miss Graham at the very beginning, all of this had this video where she talked about in announcements how there's just like she'd be fine, doing fine, she was good. And then suddenly one little thing would happen and it would just feel like she'd be suddenly so angry for no reason, you know, and there's just these like big ups and downs, I feel like. And I definitely feel like that. Like I'll have a week where I'm just feeling like this is totally fine. Like we're dealing with it, we're moving along. And then weeks where I'm like, oh my God, everything is falling apart, you know, just like irrationally the other way, you know? So I think it's been really hard to manage that and to try to figure out what's actually working and what's not working. Cause some days something is actually totally fine and you feel like it's falling apart, but it's not. So there's that. It's also been hard. I mean, I don't have family in the area in Washington. All my family lives in New Mexico. And so not seeing family for a very long time has been hard. And just not being able to do the normal things, you know, like I didn't travel to New Mexico this summer the way I normally would to see family. And we had a party planned for my mom's 60th birthday that we didn't do because of COVID, you know, so just kind of missing out on those things, I think has been hard too. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not exactly surprised to hear that like everybody has their ups and downs, because like for me too, I've experienced that. And throughout these like last 7 close to 8 months now, wait, 8 to 9 months, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's getting close to a year now. I know.
Yeah, it's been a long time, and we all miss those things.
Yeah, I know. And it's funny. I feel like, yeah, it's like some weeks I'm like, you know what? Okay, like other generations had World War I or World War II. Like we can handle it, right? All I have to do is show up to Zoom in the morning, like, oh, poor me. Like I can do it, you know? But then some days it does feel like this is the worst. You know, I don't know. It's really hard when it goes up and down like that.
Yeah. Let's see. This is a kind of like the same question, but someone.
Oh, I think you paused a little bit.
Uh-oh.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there we go. Yeah,
there
I can
we go.
hear
Perfect.
you. My Wi-Fi is killing me today. It's doing that. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But,
I understand the struggle.
Yeah. So what is your favorite book?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, my favorite book, just as a person, I really love the book The Prince of Tides by Pat Conroy. It's just a beautiful book. It's set in the South, in South Carolina, and it kind of goes back and forth between these adult siblings and their relationship, and then what happened to them as kids. And some of what's happened to them as kids is super traumatic, and some is just really beautiful and funny. And there's just some really hilarious scenes in there. And the writing is just really gorgeous. I love The Prince of Tides. There's just a couple scenes in there that I sometimes just randomly think about and just make me laugh because they're so funny. They're so good. But my favorite book to teach is very different, actually. I really like teaching. Well, in California, I taught a book called The Handmaid's Tale to upperclassmen, and that's a fun book to teach because it's a dystopia, and dystopias are always really fun. The Great Gatsby is also a lot of fun. It's a cool thing to think about, and I think very relevant to today. So those are some of my favorites to teach. Yeah.
Okay. What is your favorite line from a song / poem / book, etc.?
Oh my
God. It should just be from one of them.
Wow. Okay. Let's think about this one for a second. I'm the worst at remembering things like this. Okay. This is not really a favorite, but it's something that pops into my mind. So I'm just going to go with it. One of my favorite things that a student has ever thought about a line in a book. I was teaching Of Mice and Men to freshmen in California. And the two of the characters talk about, they say that we're going to go to the next ranch, we're going to work up a stake. And they mean like money. They're going to work up a stake so that they have money to then pay for another ranch. And one of those students thought they meant a steak, like STEAK, like the one you eat. And so they wrote this whole paragraph analyzing the word choice of the word steak and how like steaks are expensive and how it shows that they're lower class because they can't afford a steak. And just like they go on and on for sentences and sentences about this misinterpretation of the word steak in there. And it was the most hilarious misreading. I just loved it so much. So maybe we're going to go and work up a steak is maybe one of my favorite lines just because of that experience.
Do you know what that line is from?
It's from Of Mice and Men, the book.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So we're teaching Of Mice and Men. Yeah. It was pretty hilarious. They really went with the analysis of that word choice and just kept on running with it in their essay for, I mean, I'm not kidding, like a whole paragraph spent on talking about how it's so important that this character said the word steak, but it was the wrong steak. It was hilarious. It was so good. Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah, that was good.
So going back to oh, this isn't Fantasyland. This is like some other Fantasyland thing. Someone was asking, what is your favorite mythical creature?
Ooh. You know, I think I gotta go with a unicorn. Like, I love horses, but then you got a unicorn on top of it. Like, that would be, if you could have unicorns like as a real thing, that would be pretty sweet. Although one of the, I can't remember which one I just found out that like one of the, like your birth sign or whatever, like I'm a Leo.
Uh-huh.
One of them, I can't remember one of them. One of them's a sea goat, which I think is pretty hilarious too. So you could be a sea goat, like you're like, it's like a mermaid, but a goat,
Uh-huh.
which that was particularly exciting. I think it's when you're born in December, you're a sea goat, but so maybe a sea goat or a unicorn. Yeah, those would be my two.
What makes the unicorn better choice than just horses?
That's a really good question. Um, like, I guess like the image of you can just like ride around on a unicorn and have it stab things with its little like thing. Like I kind of imagine like going into war on a unicorn and you have your little sword on its head. That seems pretty sweet. Um, and also it lights up too. So you could just be like riding around and you just basically have a flashlight attached to your horse's head. That'd be kind of cool. I guess you could create all of these things, but it seems cool that you'd have a unicorn. And also like they've got to have other things, right? Like can unicorns, they got to do some other cool things. I don't really know.
Rainbows.
Yeah,
Something with
rainbows.
rainbow.
Yeah. Just have a rainbow following you around all the time. Seems good.
It's funny. What about the sea goat?
What about this? I don't know. I just think the image of like a goat, but has like a mermaid tail on it. Like imagine encountering that in the ocean. Like a goat just swims up to you. That just sounds, I don't know. It's just a really interesting combination of things to me. Yeah. Because I love being in the ocean too. So the thought of a goat like just swimming on up to me, that'd be quite the day. Yeah.
Next question is which grade do you love teaching the most?
Oh, all the grades have just such different cool things about them. Really and truly, I know all teachers say that, but like for instance, my 8th graders right now are just like, they're so excited all the time and they participate like too much on Zoom, which is fun, like you can't get them to stop participating, which is fun. And freshmen are a little bit like that too. Like there's still some excitement about high school and just like all of that's really fun. And then I've never taught sophomores, so I can't really say, but then juniors, something happens between sophomore and junior year where students come back and they're just like an adult. It's the coolest thing where kids that you had taught before that, were still very kid-like as freshmen are suddenly juniors and you're like, oh my gosh, you're like a young man or a young woman. And then seniors, by the time I had seniors, I've never taught seniors at Baker, but in California, they just were so comfortable with their group and who they are at the school. And they're just so settled within themselves that they're really fun to teach. Minus like once you get into like senioritis typed, like at the end of second semester, then, that's a little frustrating getting them to do things. But they're still really lovely. And then seniors also at the end of the year get so nostalgic and they're just very sweet. They really want to talk all about how great their time was. And it's fun to be able to experience that with them. So all of the grades have very cool things about them. Yeah.
Another similar question like that is, do you have a favorite student?
No, how could you have a favorite student? Oh my gosh. I mean, that's the thing I love about teaching is that your day is so varied, right? And every student brings their life and their perspective and everything that's happened to them and everything they've experienced into your classroom. And I learn so much because of that, right? Like, I feel so fortunate that I get to know so many different people that have had so many experiences that I can't even sometimes imagine. And they teach me so much. So everyone, yeah, no, I love that we get so many different types of people all together. That's one of the real joys and the real beauty of public education, I think, is that we get all these different people together and you get to learn from each other. And yeah, so you can't have a favorite because they all have taught me so many different things. Yeah.
I just wanted to see if you did have one because that's a common question that everyone likes to ask.
I
Oh, we
know,
have
it's
a new
true.
teacher. She's been around for 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not possible. It's not possible.
And the last and final question of the day is, what is your favorite flower or plant?
Favorite flower or plant? You know, sunflowers are some of my favorite things to just have in the house or to grow, just because I've always liked them. They're just so beautiful and shiny and they feel like summer, but also growing them when you can just grow giant sunflowers, and like the flowers bigger than your head. I just think they're so cool. So that's probably one of my favorite plants or flowers, sunflowers. Yeah, they're great.
Does it remind you of home?
Yeah, I guess a little bit. Yeah, people definitely grow them in New Mexico. Yeah, I grew a bunch of them in my garden though in Bellingham this summer, and they were real. Yeah, they're just really pretty. I love
them. Well, that's all my questions for you.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for having me, Alex.
No, thanks for letting me interview you today.
Of course. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's nice to get you know you a little bit more because I came in knowing nothing about you whatsoever. I'm like, who's Miss Sullivan? I know she's a new teacher, but I've never interacted with or talked to you in any way.
It's very bizarre to start working at a new school and then pretty much go into distance learning. There's not a lot of yeah, connection. It's very odd. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah, of course, Alex. All right. Well, goodbye. And I will, I guess, stop recording.